And who record?
Me. Don't
Oh,
worry.
okay.
I will not share it with the police.
Okay. Yeah, it's like since Corona, it's like way easier. It's way easier to meet people from different cultures and different countries, and like it's easier to be like way more connected. And it's like really nice because then you can like connect with different people and learn about their experiences, but it can also lead to like misunderstanding and prejudgment because the way we behave might differ from culture to culture. And that's why we're talking about intercultural virtual exchange competences, because we want to ensure that our communication and interactions in the virtual world are like respectful, effective, fair, and culturally aware. Um, and to talk a bit more about what it is exactly, it's like these intercultural virtual exchange competences are like an ability to like for one communicate effectively across different cultures online, to use digital tools responsively and consciously, and also to understand how like culture can shape communication styles, which can also be applied in the offline and in the online world, and also how we can navigate ambiguity, nuances, and diverse viewpoints. And all in all, these like competences can, if we like develop them, we can create an inclusive, empathetic, and culturally aware digital environment where we can all understand each other a bit better. And yes. And for that, I found actually a kind of framework to kind of quantify or like explain cultural differences a bit better. And it's called the Lewis model. And this model, it's like there, like in psychology, there are different models which there are usually different theories, and different modules can explain one thing or like differences. And this is one of the models. It's not the model, but it's one of the model. I want to put a little disclaimer here. Like sometimes in like modern psychology, this can be seen as too simple, but I still wanted to include it because it gives like a basic framework to understand cultural differences regarding communication in like a work context, which can be applied to online and offline communication. And I don't know. I wanna. Can I do this like? Can ich irgendwie? Yeah, so, you see my mouse? Okay, nice. Okay, doing for this model, it's like a bit older. It's from 2006. Oh shit, sorry. It's like you can kind of have three categories, which are kind of like a spectrum. For one, they're multi-active, then they're linear active and reactive. And it's like you see that different countries are kind of like put in this spectrum. And as I said, it's like, of course, you can generalize a whole country, and like not everybody is the same, of course, but just like keep in mind, this is just a basic framework to have like a broad overview about this, but this is not the non plus ultra for explaining cultural differences. But for example, you see here linear active, it's like Germany and Switzerland, right? And linear active like countries which are categorized at linear active, it's like very task focused, very organized, like a lot of planning. And this model basically says that linear active cultures, such as, for example, Germany and Switzerland, they prefer like schedules, they prefer like to have like a framework, a plan, and like very direct communication. And for example, one thing I've noticed here, like in Germany, it's like when you have like an request to someone regarding work, in Germany, we don't. like text the person like, hey, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well. I was wondering about XYZ. Have you done this already? Or like, do you need help, for example? In Germany, that doesn't happen. This like, how are you doing? How is it going? This part is usually just skipped. It doesn't exist, and it's just straight to the point, like, hey, I have this question about work. Have you done this or not? It's like very straightforward, just as an example. But like for some other cultures, this can be like seen as very rude and like too direct. But that's just like how this is being handled in Germany, right? Um, yeah. So much regarding the linear active cultures. Then there are the multi-active cultures. These cultures are like more people-oriented, they're like more emotional, more talkative. And here it's like, I think like multitasking is more a thing and flexible plans are like more preferred. And it's like easy to like switch regarding on what's more important right now. Where, for example, in Germany, like if things don't go as planned, this can like sometimes lead to struggles. And here, these are like, as you can see, Argentina, Brazil, also more Arab countries are more seen here, Hispanic America. It's like this is like more the category here. For like for Lewis theory, as I said, don't take this like take everything I said with a grain of salt, right? Of course you can generalize, but I just want to give like a basic framework. And then they're like reactive. These are like China, Vietnam, Japan, and it's like very like more as a like reactive culture, like a lot of listening, people are a bit more reserved and like harmony and like indirect communication is like preferred. And I also read somewhere that, for example, if someone is disagree, if like there's something happening and there's a disagreement, that they just don't say anything. And this like silence is like kind of your sign that, okay, people are disagreeing. Whereas, for example, in Germany, they would say like, "Oh no, I think this is a bad idea," and and it's just like I wanted to bring this up just for everybody, for all of us to think about. Okay, how is like, for example, disagreement handled here? How are like these like general formalities, like, "Hi, how are you doing? How is this handled here?" And how can they differ? And what can this mean? How we can interpret this? Because just because somewhere it's different doesn't mean that's good or bad. It's just different, you know? And I think it's like good to keep this in mind, to have like to increase like culture awareness and also, you know, to increase the empathy and understanding we have for different people and the way they're handling work, work context, and also in the offline and online world. Yes. Any questions to this model? Okay. Moving on. Okay. Moving on to regarding again going back to the intercultural virtual exchange competences. We categorize them as like three pillars: attitudes, knowledge, and skills. And these pillars, these like having competences in these pillars can help us navigating cultural differences in a virtual context and also in the like real world context. And you know, having like knowledge about this and like understanding and skills can help us promote mutual understanding, respects, and helps us avoiding prejudgments. And that's very important, especially in the online world, because it's so easy to meet new people from different cultures. And it's like important to have this awareness so we are not prejudging people. Starting with the first one, attitudes. And attitudes are important because this is kind of the way we are, like with the inner mindset, and like we are entering such virtual spaces. A good attitude or like a preferred attitude would be, for example, that there's a curiosity towards different perspectives and general openness to new ideas or like different ways of communicating. that there's also a respect for like cultural differences and also empathy for understanding differences and not just like reacting or replying to it. And generally speaking, like also a willingness to like question your own assumptions and biases. For example, if there's like something you felt like was like very direct, it's like important to be like, okay, maybe the person doesn't want to be rude, maybe it's just the way this is handled in their culture. So it's like good to like keep that check in your head when meeting people from different cultures. Yes. Then there's knowledge, and knowledge is generally about the stuff you know regarding a different culture and how this can influence communication. For example, the tone and emotional expression when communicating, the use of humor, whether it's like direct or indirect communication, or whether like what it can mean when someone is being silent or using formalities. And having knowledge in all those like areas can help increasing the awareness between differences and between different cultures, and this can also helps preventing misinterpretation and supports accurate understanding and empathy as well. Yes. And then there's also skills. And skills are important because it kind of like ties everything together, the things you know and the way you act. For example, skills would be like communicating clearly and respectfully online, managing differences, for example, in time zones, language levels, communication, and conflict styles. For example, if you know that some like different people from the different worlds are joining, and then there's like for example, for one country, it's like very, very late, and then they're like maybe tired, had a long day, then this can also affect the way you communicate online. Yes, and the rest as well, of course. And then also a skill would be that the way you talk or you approach misunderstandings, like whether it's like a low voice or like a higher voice, how the intonation is, and also how misunderstandings are being approached. Is it an indirect or a direct approach? Yes, this all can like differ between different cultures, and it's like important to have this awareness and to be able to have the skills to handle it. And also, I've already said this, but generally just like staying aware of like the cultural differences and like trying to be understanding and empathetic towards different ways of communicating. Because this way we can avoid something like misrepresentation, which is, I would say, a key challenge. Because what is misrepresentation? It's like when someone's words or intention are incorrectly interpreted. It's like assuming someone's intention, for example, even though you don't really know them. And this can be like especially sensitive in like online context, because there's a lot of missing in the online context that you would have in real world. For example, the tone, the body language, for example, the body language you can't really see. You can only see like the head and the shoulders maybe, but you don't know how the person is like sitting or whatever. There's also like culture differences in expressions, like for what, like for some people, the way someone is handling something can be seen as like direct and rude, and for others it's just like effective. It's like the way you interpreted some things can differ. And also like a cause for misrepresentation is, for example, also quick assumptions, just like seeing how a person reacts and then directly assuming, oh, they don't like me, or they don't like what I said or whatever. But like that's just a quick assumption, and maybe that's really not the case. And also that's like an obvious one, but like general just language level issues and translation. And yeah, this can all lead to misrepresentation, which is like very like nobody wants to be misrepresented, you know, nobody wants other people to have like a wrong image in their head of themselves, you know. But yeah, but it's like the reason why I want to say this is like it's important to stay aware of these causes and to like remind yourself in like cultural contexts about this. All try to be a bit more understanding and like empathetic towards the people we're seeing and meeting, maybe even for the first time, to like avoid unfair prejudgment and to avoid misrepresentation. Exactly. That's so far for my part. Are there any questions people have? Because if there are no questions, then I would hand over to Amanda for her part. Yes, Mahmoud,
You're muted.
you're
Yes,
muted.
the attitude is very complicated. Sometimes is it's misunderstood. Learning about attitude could be very difficult at the same cultural level. For example, in Jordan, the attitude between a person or another person can, translated or interpreted it in different way. So this is challenge. I think we need to live with it or indicate it in the like a rule in the session when we are handling online session. It's good to mention that we need to be transparent as much as we can, since we cannot communicate without knowing, using the right words and with the common understanding, because this is very, very complicated, I think, to know what's inside people if they don't put their attitudes in the table and let's say, this is what I believe on this. So it's about being more transparent.
That's true, especially because like nobody's, yeah, as you said, nobody is. Wait, it's okay. It's like you're right, because nobody is really talking about, okay, this is the attitude I have going into this meeting, right? People just do it, and then it's like that's why it's important to like also assume like good intentions of other people, even though you might not understand why they behaved the way they behaved. And like being like culturally aware, like having the differences in your head can help to have like a good attitude and also to like not assume any bad intentions from other people.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, let's move on to the next part. Apologies in advance for my voice because I got a little sick last week or this week. So if you hear my voice sounding a little bit off, apologies. Yeah. So the strawman fallacy is, by definition, I quote, misrepresenting someone's argument, exaggerating, simplifying, or twisting it, and then arguing against that distorted version. It sounds a little bit complicated, but to be honest, it's not. To give you one example, if I said I want women to feel supported in the workplace, and then someone would come to me and say, okay, so you don't care about men, you want men to suffer, you don't want men to be able to work in the same workplace, that would be a straw man, right? Because what you're doing is you're misrepresenting what I have said, or you're exaggerating it, or you're saying, you're attributing something that I haven't said to me. And the impact of that can be pretty serious, because it shifts the dialogue into conflict. So it turns us not into partners in a conversation, but into adversaries. It also distracts from real issues like how women are treated at the workplace. It damages trust and connection between the two people, or two or more people who are having a conversation. And it can also lead to an increase in intercultural misunderstandings. Oh, let's go to the next one. The strawman fallacy can often or very frequently happen in intercultural settings. And there are multiple reasons for that. So one reason is that sometimes there's things that get lost in translation. So even now I'm speaking in English and I cannot express all the things that I would be able to express in German, which is my mother tongue. And it becomes even worse when I'm speaking in Arabic. And I'm sure you have all experienced the same thing, that sometimes you just cannot express what you want to say effectively in your second or third language. The next thing that might exacerbate the strawman fallacy or might cause it is differences between communication styles. So what Dana has introduced to us earlier, where we have some cultures or some individuals also that might prefer like indirect communication. Some individuals and some cultures are more favoring more indirect or direct communication. Other things can be misinterpreted emotions, intent, or humor, which I'm sure you've also seen, and I've also experienced this myself. Like when you're talking to someone who's maybe of a different generation, they might have a different sense of humor, or when it's like between men and women, sometimes you might see that. So yeah, I'm sure we're all aware of that. Another thing can be stereotypes or assumptions. So this is why it's important to be aware of that and to always check whether you have any implicit biases that might lead to you perceiving a certain group differently or holding certain assumptions of that group. But there's also, of course, intentional distortion when someone cannot refute the original argument. So that is when you're in a discussion with someone and that person is not favorable of you or your point of view, and as a consequence, they want to disregard what you are saying. So that will be, for example, when you're having a serious discussion, it might be, you might have seen something like that in parliament. So for example, in the German parliament, we can see this very frequently, and I don't know about the Jordanian one, but I'm pretty sure it will be the same, that people are not having a fruitful discussion. Instead, they're like arguing with a straw man, right? Now, again, let's go to the next slide, which is the different types of strawman fallacies. The first one is the oversimplified strawman fallacy, which is reducing a complex point into something weak or incomplete. So what I mentioned before, for example, would be something like that. If I say, oh, I want mental health care for women, or I want protection for women from sexual harassment in the workplace, to say, oh, that's not a problem. Why do you think only women are the victims, right? The second one is an exaggerated strawman, so making the argument sound extreme or unreasonable. So if we stick with the example of helping women or protecting women in the workplace, someone might say, okay, so you want to pay for a therapist for every woman that's working, which is obviously absurd. But that's the point of a strawman, to make the other person sound absurd. The third option would be, or the third version of the strawman fallacy would be misattributed motive strawman. So claiming the speaker holds intention they have never expressed, which could be something similar, like, oh, so you don't want men to work anymore, you just want women to work and men to stay out of workplaces so that women feel safer, which is also not what I have said, right? And number 4 would be context shift strawman, which is changing the topic or adding an unrelated consequences. So let's stick with the example of women's protection in the workplace. Someone might have said, okay, but are you aware that men are more often committing suicide? Which would be something entirely different, because mental health and committing a suicide or like depression and mental issues like that are something that is separate from safety in the workplace, and so that deserves its own discussion. But if someone is like trying to on purpose and intentionally is trying to derail the discussion and trying to interrupt me or trying to kind of go away from the point that I'm making, this might be something that person would be saying, right? So you can see that all these 4 options, all these 4 varieties are really meant to distract from the original argument that someone is making. Okay, but of course, if we are talking about the strawman fallacy, we also need to talk about how to avoid it. So how we can avoid it is by listening fully before responding and paraphrasing something for clarity, because we also don't want to strawman the other person, right? we also want to be able to understand and understand correctly. So, for example, if you hear someone making an argument, you can paraphrase it in your own words and say, if I understood correctly, you're saying da da da, right? And then that person is able to tell you, okay, yeah, you got my point. Or if you didn't really get it, then the other person can simply say, this is not what I have said. Should I explain it more clearly, so that we have like a shared foundation of what we're even talking about? Yeah. And one other point is you should avoid exaggerating or oversimplifying the point of the other side. And you should always ask clarifying questions instead of assuming negative motives. So don't assume that your conversation partner or that your the other person talking to you is being rude on purpose, or is like misrepresenting your argument on purpose. Just try to, this is also because I think it's good because in Islam also, just a side note, it tells us to always assume the best of what the other person is doing or saying. So I think it plays into this very nicely. And the last point is responding to the real argument, not an imagined one. So let's take the example of what I said. Someone who's trying to have a fruitful or like healthy discussion with me would or should respond to the point that I'm actually making, right? And not something that that person has made up. Okay, and let's go to the next slide, which is the discussion question for you guys. I'll read it out. It's, how can we create virtual spaces where cultural differences become a source of learning rather than misunderstanding? And I would say that we can try maybe to put you into groups, if I can figure out how to do it on Zoom. I'm not really sure. Breakout rooms. Yeah, I will put, maybe since we're 10, let's say we will do like 3 breakout rooms, and I will give you, I think 5 minutes is enough for you to discuss that question in the room. Yeah. Okay. Do all of you have the question still in mind? Okay, perfect. Then I'll let you go to the breakout rooms and we'll see each other in 5 minutes, inshallah. Okay, open our rooms, huh? Okay. Okay, so is there anyone who wants to share his or her opinion on the question? Feel free to just speak up. Okay, Ma'moon, what do you think? Because you're
Yes, I think you need to make sure before you start any online, let's say, exchange, that you have a real, authentic common goal between you. So you are not wasting people's time, you are not wasting your time. So it's good to agree and make sure, verify that there is a common need for this exchange. And I think we need to agree in advance on the rules for the meeting to
yeah.
avoid any misunderstanding in case something is not really clear, just to feel free and ask anytime, not to delay it, because sometimes people say, oh, delay your questions to the end, but this is doesn't work, because sometimes you build on your understanding of some ideas, you
Mm,
continue building on understanding. I am with this in online, you need just to say, excuse me, can I know what did you mean? As you said before, you need to rephrase what has been said to make
mm,
sure that you really understand the idea.
mm. Okay, I feel like that's like three very important points, like to have a shared like a common purpose of the meeting, to agree on the rules beforehand, like the rules of the conversation or the exchange, and also the last point is slipped my mind. It was on
To need to provide instant
yeah,
feedback.
instant feedback. Yeah, that's very good. Yes, and there's also something in the chat. Let's see. Oh, okay. Oh, so from room one, Samir said establish clear community guidelines, use inclusive and accessible communication tools, encourage storytelling and personal sharing, provide educational resources. Yes, I think that's very important too. Clear community guidelines, inclusive and accessible communication tools. Also, I think we did that last time also when we had the online workshop, and there was someone who asked for Arabic to be used, so that we provided like a translation. Was very helpful because it makes the space more accessible for people. Encourage storytelling and personal sharing. For the third point that's mentioned in the chat, encourage storytelling and personal sharing, I think I would agree to a certain extent because storytelling and sharing personal information it can be a good way to relate to people, but I think you should agree on it beforehand because there might also be some people that are vulnerable, maybe like sexual minorities or certain religious minorities or people for any other reason that might not be keen on sharing their personal story. So I think we shouldn't like pressure anyone to share what they don't want to share, but it can be, if it's like used well, it can be definitely a way to connect to people. Yeah. Is there anyone else who wants to share his or her opinion?
Maybe Saud.
So it's close to the most opinion. Development. That's okay. We can tell them what I'm saying. So if it was an intercultural, I don't know. So thank you. If it was an intercultural meeting or virtual places, I would say it's a good idea to have this kind of a safe space and a feedback time where you can share what you felt among some stuff. It can be if there was a rule that we can agree on. We have a space, free time, we can share how we feel about some action, some stuff, and discuss about it. Could be, or if there was a monitor where I can give the feedback based on somebody's behavior or something, that could be a really good idea as well. And based on that, we can create more clarification in the next meetings based on different cultures, behaviors.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Would you mind turning off the audio? Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, I think that's all for the discussion. If there's no one else who wants to participate, I would say we move on to the next slide, which is wait. Dun, dun, dun. Genau. Okay. Yeah, what to do if you feel misrepresented within a discussion. So the first thing is to stay calm and to avoid escalating tension. So don't confront the other person like, why are you misrepresenting my argument? Like, why are you lying? Right? That would lead to an instant fight, maybe. Yeah. So it's important to stay calm and level-headed and to restate your original points clearly and briefly, and just highlight the issue and say, hey, I don't really think that's what I meant. I think I want to express what my idea is once more so that you can understand it and we have a better discussion. And you might also invite the other person to summarize your point in order to ensure mutual understanding. So just ask the other person, like, would you mind like summarizing what I have just said so that I can be assured that we're talking about the same thing? And if you do this type of thing, it's kind of like an exercise. It encourages mutual trust and learning. And I would strongly encourage you to do this, not just like don't just ask the other person, but also try to summarize the position of the other person themselves so that you can make sure that you understand that person and the other person can understand you. And let's go to the next slide. Building healthier digital intercultural spaces. So what we just talked about in the discussion also is if we want to have a safe space or a healthy intercultural virtual exchange, then we need to have the competences that Dana talked about previously.
But the slide is not changing.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure it's my case or everybody's case.
Oh, okay.
Maybe use, yes, this is only you. No slides.
Well, that's good. That's immediate feedback, you know.
Yes.
That's good. Okay, perfect. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah,
You can use present like a slide, the
yeah,
upper
then
right.
it stops for some reason, then it stops, then it doesn't show me anymore when I'm going to the next slide. So I'll just keep it like this. It's 2 slides left, so I think it will be fine.
Yes.
So if we want to build healthier digital intercultural spaces, it will enable us to have inclusive digital communities that make everyone feel welcome. It will also encourage cross-cultural collaboration, like how we are doing it right now, how it works with other projects. It will also lead to a reduction in conflict and misunderstanding, and it will help us create more meaningful relationships across borders. So we will be able to have like healthier discussions and able to just find this like common ground, even if we live in different nations or if we're parts of different groups. And digital intercultural spaces are a core element of living healthier, especially in this increasingly digital age that we're living in. Yeah, and for the final takeaway, we wanted to mention that intercultural competence is not just a skill, it's a mindset and a practice that we have to execute every day, right? And by combining awareness, empathy, and digital literacy, we can create virtual spaces where diverse voices can genuinely understand one another. So what I've just said, no matter where you're from, no matter who you are, we should be able to find common ground and understand one another and understand the other person by being aware of our cultural habits or cultural background, by having empathy and understanding for our counterpart, and by just having basic digital literacy, which we talked about in our prior workshops also. So that, inshallah, we can have mindful and effective and fruitful discussions online. Yeah, so that concludes our presentation. So thank you so much for sticking with us. And this is now the final workshop on this topic, digital health and wellness. And I think it was very good for us. I think it was such a great experience talking to all types of different people and having the chance to interact, have these discussions. And it was also a chance for us, I think, to learn more. So I'm very, very happy to have been able to have this discussion and have this workshop with all of you guys. So instead of, I know in person we always like clap at the end for the presenters, but in this case, I really want to applaud all of you for sticking with us and being here, participating and sharing your opinion. We really, really appreciate it. So thank you guys so much. Okay, and I think that will.
I will end it for everybody.
Yes, thank you. That would conclude our part, and also thanks to Dana, who was an amazing work partner.
Thanks, Amanda and Dana.
Thank you. You did a great job. We are happy with you, and hopefully we will do a focus group soon on these topics to improve our understanding to it as well.
Yes, and thank you so much, Ma'moon, for guiding us and providing the space for us and always assisting us when we have questions and just being here and making this much more easier for us to be able to connect to all of these amazing people that we've met.
Thank you. You are my daughters. I need to take care of you. Okay.
Yes.
Shukran. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.